Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you're all doing very, very well. Welcome back to another live show with myself, and I today. I'm going to be talking about everything that's going on around Liam Rosenior. We're going to be reacting to some of the things that have been said. We're also going to be going through all of the latest Chelsea news as well. I think a large portion of the show has to be about Rosenior and what's going on with him, because a debate has sparked that I didn't necessarily think would happen this early. But who am I to judge the internet, honestly? I think, this needs to be spoken about. We need to speak about what's going on. We need to speak about what people are saying. And we need to try and add a little bit of context to everything as well. Let's try and look at this from the most level-headed perspective possible. I know at times people can be emotional, myself included, very, very guilty of that. But let's not sit here and act like it's all everything's good. It's not all good, but it's not all bad either. It's really not. And I feel like sometimes people are looking at one side and the other side, and nobody can ever seem to find that middle ground. And I think that level of debate is what we need, and that's what I'm going to try and bring today. Big up to everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic morning on this fine Thursday. I want you to let me know as well if there's any lag on the stream. I noticed a little bit yesterday. Keep me posted about the quality of everything. It might have something to do with the fact that I'm actually using a green screen properly now. So yeah, just keep me posted for that. And if there's any issues, let me know. But yeah, big up to all of you. Big up to Sam. Morning, mate. Good to see you. Big up to Robert as well. Good to see Anthony in the building. Ross bottled it. We should have played with 4 at the back. Green says, to be honest, the game was poor, but we did deserve to go through properly. Not. We didn't or we did, so I don't really understand what that means. One bad match and all the hate. So this is the thing, man. There's always a debate. I feel like some of it is genuine, but I also feel like there are a section of people that just do it because they know that they're going to get a lot of traction from it. Zhao Cam and Delap up front. Garnacho deserved to start. Really? After West Ham? That's an interesting... I don't know. I wouldn't say he deserved to start. We only lost to Arsenal. Most do this season, only in the cup for us. Fair. Well, we can hopefully redeem ourselves in the league, but we can't sit here and act like it's acceptable either. Blue Co out. Win, lose, or draw. I don't care. What's ICL? I can't lie. People just looking for a reason to attack him. To me, the game plan was perfect. It just didn't work. Going gung-ho against Arsenal would play right into their hands. Big up to you, my friend Arkil. Don't blame the amateur yes man Gaffer. I don't blame him. Up the Chelsea. Good to see you, Stevie. Always a pleasure. We didn't deserve to go through. I'm with you. Thanks for the correction. That makes more sense. Would have been less hate if he had a better touch. I said this to Nina as well. I was like, as soon as he made that touch, that was bound for an edit. And it was. I saw so many edits of this guy. I mean, it is quite funny. You can't deny it was quite funny. Yeah, that was not a great touch. Don Carlo, he would have taken a nice touch of that. Even Maresca, to be fair, I feel like would have done all right. I mean, that's more... that is quite funny. The thing that made me laugh as well is once he did the bad touch and he could see everyone was smiling around him, he should have just smiled. But he still looked really serious. I was like, oh no, that's embarrassing. I'm not going to lie to you, Liam. That's not the best. You think he's restructuring the team? Fair enough. I'll be honest with you. I agree with that. I'm not judging him too early in terms of keep him, sack him. I'm happy. I'm not happy. I don't know what I feel about Liam Rosenior. How does anyone know how they feel? I mean, I'm speaking with Arsenal fans before the game, and they're saying to me they actually quite like him. And that was genuine as well, by the way. That wasn't even, taking the mickey. Oh, yeah, Rosenior in, just like we were saying hammer him in. We want him to stay, all the rest, because we know United are going to suffer. It's not like that. They genuinely seem to feel like he's got something about him, and I'm not going to deny. I think Rosenior does have something about him, but whether that is exactly what we're looking for at the moment is another story. So we'll see what happens. As far as I'm concerned, I'm looking at this guy and I'm thinking he's clearly got some potential as a manager. He should have never got the job, and here we are. But you can't have it. No, it wasn't banter. It wasn't banter because I was having a genuine conversation, and I was sat with these guys for a couple of hours. They were really nice blokes. I went to Arsenal early because I was due to do a podcast. Someone messed me around, and then I was due to go for a Chinese with Father and Cam, who's the cameraman, and they both let me down. Father, can you imagine Father letting me down for a Chinese? We were destined to lose. It's the first game he hasn't had a Chinese. Of course we lost. So I ended up just hanging around in Arsenal, and I was like, well, I'm not really sure what to do here. I honestly thought to myself, do I pop into a cinema, watch a movie? And then I saw a Wetherspoons, and I thought, this is a safe space. I went to get a drink, and next thing you know, someone recognized me, and I was like, nice to see you. He was actually a Chelsea fan, and he was meeting with one of his mates who was an Arsenal fan. And that's how it came about that I was chatting with all these Arsenal fans. So there you go. There you go. But the feeling I get from Arsenal fans, just the ones I've spoken to, and I've spoken to quite a few, and even the online consensus as well, is saying that they seem to actually quite like Rosenior. But it's much easier to judge a manager when he's not your own, isn't it? And when you don't understand necessarily the politics and the experiences that you've gone through after the past few years to get to a point where Rosenior is your manager. It's not to say that we don't think he's any good. It's just to say that he's not qualified for the job. And in any world, in any real line of work, if you go from that level to Chelsea, and this could be corporate, this could be whatever it is, it's a bit strange, isn't it? It's unique. It is unique. We needed Estevan in the starting 11. We're going to dive into that, man, because I'm going to be honest with you. I've got a few things that I want to speak about regarding the starting 11 and the way we set out. I really believe that a lot of people are oversimplifying things, and you need to just dive in a little bit, boys. We need to dive in. Okay, let's go through a couple more, and then we're going to dive straight into it. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel as well. We should be on at least 50 likes, guys. Once we get to 50 likes, I'm going to dive in. I'm going to talk about myself, because that's the main sort of part of this discussion, is speaking about Rosenior, looking at what people are saying about him and trying to address those claims. They might be right, some of them, they might be wrong, but we're going to look at them. Troy Deeney's one that I've seen. There's stuff on TalkSport as well. There's tweets as well that are out there, and I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, you couldn't wait to say that. Like, how long have you had that pent up in your system and you just wanted to get it out? It comes across very forced at times, and I'm just thinking, can we not just look at what's happening and go, yeah, okay, you're bound to lose a game at some point. Hello, we did. And that's life. What if we go on a 10-game streak? Are you going to say the same thing? And I think the answer is probably not. Then you're going to start loving the guy, even though you were frustrated that we couldn't get to a Carabao Cup final. Doesn't make it acceptable, but I can't judge a manager over 6 games. Just can't do it. Can't do it. I need a couple of months to even start a conversation. I mean, unless he was that bad to begin with, which he hasn't been, then, you've got to have a level of just laying everything on the table and looking at it and going, all right, cool. It's like when you play poker, and they, was it blackjack? I can't remember. And they flip the cards over. Yeah, you could do it with poker as well. If there's only 3 cards on the table, you don't know what else is going to happen. I feel like we haven't seen really what we can do. So That's my stance. In March, in a month's time, maybe even 2 months, that's when I'll really have a proper opinion on Rosenior in terms of I think he's doing enough to retain this job. I think that he's earned the right to get a little bit of respect based on what he's done. Or the flip side, which is that I think he's absolutely poor and he needs to get sacked. And I think he's making players worse, not better. But that argument is not something that I need to make on either side at the moment. It's just a case of how's he doing? He's doing fine. He's doing fine. He's not doing well. He's not doing badly. He's doing fine. This is pretty much just like the stable level that Chelsea sort of inherited under Maresca. I mean, we are more stable, obviously, now than when Maresca took us over. And we really kicked ourselves in the teeth in terms of conning the fan base that we were stable when we sacked the manager on the first day of the year. But to be fair to Rosenior, like, he hasn't lost many games, but he lost a big one. And the argument that I think people will come out with, especially if we don't start winning games against big sides, obviously there's not too many coming up at the moment to really have a look at. We've got a lot of relegation sides coming up: Wolves, Leeds, Hull in the cup, Burnley. But March is where it's really going to heat up. Arsenal away, Villa away, Newcastle at home, Everton away. That is the month where I will make much more of a judgment on Liam Rosenior. And if we get through that month, if we have a good February and March, I honestly feel really good. I'll feel good about where we're at. I'll feel like we're improving. And I will feel like we're on track to potentially do something this season, i.e. top 4 and an FA Cup. Those are my hopes, right? I always said that an improvement on last season would be Champions League with a higher points tally or a higher finish. I mean, points tally would be better because that's a direct improvement just based on what we're doing ourselves. And a domestic cup, which would be respectable. And the Carabao Cup would have been a great opportunity. But that opportunity's gone. So I'm not going to waste my time thinking too much about that. But again, we have to address everything going on there. So this is the situation we're in, people. This is where we're at as a club. We're a little bit divided, aren't we? Can't deny that. Smash the like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel. We're almost on 50 likes. Once we get to 50, I'm going to get cracking as well. If you fancy getting some new shirts on the cheap, okjersey.com, use the code CFTV for 8% off. It's cheap and we just made it cheaper. So there's a QR code on the screen as well as a link in the description. Big up to Green Hit Mafia becoming a member. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining the gang. Always a pleasure to welcome you into the CFTV family. And yeah, I want to start off with something that I think is causing a little bit of debate at the moment. And I think it's something that you can justify to an extent, but I want to talk about some of the hate that we are getting from the media. The main one that I want to start off with is Troy Deeney, guys. I don't know if you've heard what Troy Deeney is saying, but Troy Deeney basically came out saying that Chelsea are moving backwards. We're not improving. It looks like we're getting worse based on the setup, based on the mentality that we had going into the game. He compared the setup to something that Everton would be happy in, a David Moyes-like performance. And I'm looking and I'm going, that's a bit harsh. I'm also going, is that right? I mean, is that a fair statement? Is that accurate? And my answer to that would be yes, to an extent, but also we didn't have our best attacking options. So what am I going to do? Am I going to play the same way with Palmer and with Esteval as I will without them? Of course I'm going to tweak. Of course I'm going to change things. No manager's going to play the same way when he's got different players on the pitch unless it's a like-for-like replacement. Having Delap on the right wing and having Caicedo, Fernandez, and Santos in there as well. It's totally different to just having a. It's totally different. It's totally different. The back line was different. We didn't have James. You know that we would never play the same way with Fofana as without Fofana. We wouldn't be as stable. We wouldn't have as much physicality. I think if we had Jorgensen, we played differently. So to sit here and act like you're going to play the same way every single game, no matter who you play against, is just a bit strange. I mean, it's not a very logical argument, is it? Let me know what you think. And I'm just finding the clip now as well, because it was on Instagram, but I can't share Instagram on stream for some reason. Right, Troy Deeney. Can't fucking find it. Anyway, I'm going to quote him. He said that Chelsea are not good enough. We're going backwards. The mentality wasn't there, and the set was like Everton. And I'm sitting here saying, that is just harsh, mate. That is harsh. You've bottled that up, and then you've spewed it out of the earliest opportunity. If we make that case and that argument after going on a bad run of form, or even against a relegation side or a mid-table team, like any team that isn't Arsenal, basically, and you go, well, you've got to go for these guys, you've got to go for them. Going gung-ho against Arsenal plays into their hands in the sense that then they have more opportunities to counter and make something happen. I mean, you could have both setups play into Arsenal's hands. Both of them do. But it's also about what we're going to do to protect ourselves. So we went in with the mentality of, we are not going to concede. And then when we bring on Palmer and Esteval, we are going to push forward and we're going to try and get that goal. Did that work against West Ham when we made the substitutions at halftime? Or we'll just say second half for the sake of it, because we made the substitutions after 57 minutes. Did that work against West Ham? Yes. Did that work against Napoli when we made changes? Yes. So is making changes the problem? Probably not, based on the short-term success that we've had. Okay. But the issue seems to be the way that we've lined up in these games. And then if I backtrack to Napoli and West Ham, we set up in a way where I would have said Napoli were dominating us in the first half, and we changed things and then we improved. And then against West Ham, we were poor. And then in the second half, we improved. So great second halves, not a great start, not a great setup. But would I have said the same thing about the first half against Arsenal if we would have won the game? Would I have said that the first half performance was poor and that the setup was negative and that we didn't go with any ambition and we didn't have a game plan to win the match? We just wanted to survive. I don't think we would be saying that. So this is where I have a little bit of empathy. And I agree with Rosenior as well when he talks about being a pundit and how being a pundit is easy and everything in hindsight is simple. Absolutely. I mean, if we would have gone gung-ho and then conceded a couple of goals, everyone would have been criticizing what we're doing. They would have been saying, what are you doing? We've got no defensive stability. We've conceded. This is embarrassing. We're not even losing by one goal now. We're losing by multiple. And that's the argument, isn't it? So in that sense, when I look at this Arsenal fixture, I don't look at it as a damning indictment on Rosenior. I really don't. I mean, if you're going to look at it like that, if you want to dive into every little detail, then actually the reason that we lost this semi-final in the first place has nothing to do with the manager. It's to do with the goalkeeper. It's to do with the fact that Sanchez conceded those opportunities and Arsenal were able to take advantage of them at Stamford Bridge. That was the problem. If we hadn't have conceded those goals, we wouldn't have been in a position to then have to chase the game in the second leg away against Arsenal, i.e. the best team in Europe, apparently at the moment, the best team in England, the best defensive team in the world, which is a fair argument, to be fair. So the odds aren't exactly in our favour. So I think that the way that we set up was pragmatic, but it wasn't negative. It wasn't like we didn't have any opportunities, and it wasn't like we weren't able to try and create opportunities. We made the subs. We made the right subs. The same sort of subs that we were clapping about at halftime against West Ham when we saw that João Pedro was coming on, when we saw Garnacho was coming off. Who else was coming on at that time? I can't even remember off the top of my head. We made the triple substitution. Everyone's clapping. Everyone's happy. They're smiling. We're 2-0 down and they're happy. But then when we make those same sort of changes in the sense that it's attacking, it's an improvement on what we already have on the pitch. But this time it didn't work. It didn't work this time. So why didn't it work? Well, I guess you could say, number one, Arsenal are a better team than West Ham. And they're probably a better team than Napoli, in fairness. But yeah, sometimes I just don't want to read into these things too much. I feel like people dive so far in. They look at this run, they look at that run, they look at this pass, they look at that pass. Players miss passes, players fuck it up, managers mess it up. The quality just isn't there for me to be able to go into depth about why we're losing certain games and why we're having bad moments. Because sometimes you just have to say they're not good enough. They're not great. They're pretty average. We're pretty mediocre. It's not even like a damning indictment, is it? I mean, I look at the bench. I was shocked when I looked at the bench. And I'm all for promoting youth and trying to get younger players integrated into the squad and giving them an opportunity. You want to complain about the starting 11. The substitutes were Charlie Holland, Teddy Sharman-Lowe, Shamara Mweka, Badiashile, Garnacho, Mark Guiu, Josh Achimpong, Estevao, and Palmer. So what are the players on that I think can actually cause an issue? I'm seeing three. I'm seeing three players that I'm like, right, okay, I believe that you could have an impact. Palmer, Estevao, and Garnacho. And I know a lot of you don't like Garnacho, but you can't deny off the bench you can make an impact. He did that in the first half. It's all about being in the right place at the right time with Garnacho. And the fact is, he always gets in the right place. That's the one thing I've given Garnacho a thumbs up for ever since he's come to Chelsea. It's like, okay, you're missing all these opportunities, but at least you're in the right place. And then what did we decide to do when we brought him on? I mean, we haven't even spoken about Delap, to be fair, who I've been very patient with. I'm still going to be patient with. There's certain players that you just like. And for me, Delap just happens to be one of those players. But even though I like a player, I can absolutely criticize him, and he deserves criticism. I also think Rosenior deserves a little bit of stick because playing Delap on the right, I mean, I understood the idea, but it's like you wanted him to win duels. You wanted him to win 50-50s. You wanted him to win aerial balls. And you were the player that lost the most duels out of anyone on that pitch in the first half. So the one strength that we thought you were going to have going into this game was actually our biggest weakness. That was where we conceded the ball the most in terms of duels individually. The second thing is with Delap, width doesn't matter because he's not a winger. I don't see his strengths driving down that side of the pitch. I mean, he likes looking for space, don't get me wrong, but Arsenal weren't exactly intent on pressing, were they? They were quite happy to sit back and just soak it up. So I'm looking at Liam and I'm thinking, you're being played in a way that doesn't suit you. You're also not doing very well at the one thing that we thought you would do well at, which is win your duels. That for me is on him. And that's also on Rosenior for putting him in a position where, to be honest with you, it's like, It's like me saying to Cucurella, listen, man, we need some help. We haven't got a left winger. We want you to play as a left winger. Cucurella might be okay, but if he had a bad game, I can't exactly shit on the guy. It's not his natural position. I know he's a left back, and now we're playing as a left winger. His strength is defending, not attacking, but he can play offensively. And Delap can go out wide at times. He can have the freedom to go there, but don't keep him there. So that's where we are at the moment, guys. That's where we are at the moment with Delap. He is a player that I am intent on giving time to. You know, people say, Alex, why do you have a double standard with João Pedro and Delap? Well, first of all, João Pedro cost double, and he's played more than double the amount of games in the Premier League than Delap has. And when I look at the stats from last season, I'm seeing Delap on, 11 or 12 goals for Ipswich, and I'm seeing João Pedro with 10 for Brighton. So you're paying twice as much for a guy. And 5 of those were penalties, by the way. I know Delap scored some penalties as well, so that's a fair point. João Pedro has absolutely upped his level. Credit to the man. Credit to him. You know, I think it's admirable when a player can bounce back like that. And when you rise to a certain level. But this is the level that's expected. Delap is a £30 million player. He's younger than João Pedro. He's come from Ipswich. He has minimal experience in the Premier League, let alone for a so-called top Premier League side. Of course, I'm going to give him more time. It's like the equivalent of when we sign Pedro Neto and Jamie Gittins. Yeah, Jamie Gittins has got experience in Europe. He's not played in the Premier League. Pedro Neto has established himself at Wolves as a player who's very competent. So I am going to expect more from Pedro Neto than I am from Jamie Gittins. I think Pedro Neto has been pretty poor in recent weeks as well, by the way. I mean, that is also an argument to be had. And I like Pedro Neto. So, yeah, Delap on the right wing was just strange. That was very strange. The whole setup was basically, can we contain Arsenal? And then how many shots are we going to have as well? And we ended up having 10 shots in total in the match, according to the website. And we did dominate possession against Arsenal, but again, it's like possession for what? It wasn't like Maresca in terms of it was that pointless, but it was still pretty passive in a way. The one thing I didn't understand is why we weren't crossing the ball. And Nina said this after me as well. She said, Alex, I think that Rosenior could have taken more risks. And that went against what a lot of other people, apart from Thomas, everybody else said that they actually thought we set up in the right way, including Don, who I think is pretty logical when it comes to this stuff. Aggie, who everyone knows is very harsh on the team, he sets quite a high standard. Aggie said, I'm happy with the performance. So I was very intrigued by sort of the take. Okay, how do you think that we could have improved and taken more risks? Like what was it that was clear to you that we could have done? Because I think that the substitutions, we're taking away the starting 11. I think the substitutions were all aggressive and pretty uplifting as an away fan to think, right, we're going for it. Especially with Esteval, as I said, Palmer for Delap, Esteval came on for Hato, Garnacho came on for Santos. Those are all offensive changes. At the end we had Achimpong for Gusto. I'm not entirely sure what the reason for that one was. And I'm looking at what we're doing, and I'm thinking that's pretty good. Yeah, just substitutions. I'm not looking at the tactics necessarily. And the thing that Nina said to me, she said, we didn't overlap enough. And that was one of the big issues, because we didn't overlap as much. We didn't put those balls in the box. I actually think that when we did overlap, we still didn't whip the ball in the box enough. And when you're struggling to break a team down, you've got so many bodies in the middle. You've got big, tall blokes in centre back positions with Saliba and Gabriel. Like I'm not going to sit here and and act like it's easy to penetrate that defense. But if you can't play through them, you just have to put them in a position where somebody's got to get their head on the ball, and maybe there's going to be a mistake. Maybe there's just going to be a great ball and someone gets their head on it. That is essentially luck to a point, because you whip X amount of balls in and you just hit and hope who's in the box. But that's very simple, and it's effective. It works if you maintain that pressure as well. And we did try and put the pressure on towards the last sort of 5-10 minutes, but at that point, Arsenal stepped up and they obviously opened us up with Havertz. And I'm looking at the way we did it, and I'm thinking, well, we went gung ho at the end, didn't we? We went gung ho. That's why we conceded, because we didn't have enough people back to help defend. So that's my broad take on the game. I would like to see us overlap, but overlap with a little bit of an idea of what we're going to do when we do overlap. Does that make sense? I know that I'm going to make a run and a player's going to pass me the ball. I'm going to have the opportunity to whip a ball in, number one, or I'm going to be really confident I'm going to try and dribble towards the goal. Very difficult, especially for a Malagusto. Or I'm going to cut back, okay? Cutting back seems to be what we do 9 times out of 10. At least against Arsenal, that's the way it looked to me. Can we change that and get into a situation where we're whipping balls in more often? And then we can be critical about players not getting on the end of it, or we can look at maybe we need to work on our crossing. The Garnacho did about 1 cross when he came on, and it was absolutely awful. He is not a player that should be out wide like Maresca basically wanted him to do at times, and just pinned just pinned out wide on the wing. He needs to go inside, make the runs, and get on the end of something, because that is where Garnacho gives you something. He has this ability to just pop up in an area where, for whatever other reason, other players don't pop up in, including Esteval. Garnacho gets more opportunities than everyone else. And you think, why is that? It is his positioning and the runs that he makes. But he didn't make any of those runs. Just looked totally starved of confidence. And then I'm seeing Palmer getting the ball, especially towards the end of the game. He passes him the ball to Garnacho. Garnacho does this pathetic cross. We give the ball away, and Palmer's just like rolling his eyes, not happy at all. The next opportunity comes, Palmer gets the ball again. There's a pass on for Garnacho. Number one, it was a pass that maybe wouldn't have done much. Garnacho could have made a run, but it was a pass that was there, and you want to keep the ball moving. He blatantly ignores Garnacho and goes back into the midfield, back to the middle. And Garnacho is starting to look like a player, and we saw this at West Ham, who's just starved of confidence. The criticism that Garnacho got within the first few weeks of the first few months of him being here, to be honest with you, has been really unfair. Even in games where he missed a lot of opportunities, Newcastle's a great example. I looked at that game and I went, I could see exactly what he was trying to do. I liked the idea. It just never worked. But it's like I enjoyed the idea. I didn't see the idea against Arsenal. I didn't see what Garnacho was trying to do. That's not playing a player to his strengths. And yeah, since Rosenior's come in, Garnacho has just not been it. He's not been a player that I've particularly... I think he got an assist against Charlton, correct me if I'm wrong, and he obviously got the 2 goals against Arsenal. But whenever he started games, just hasn't looked as good. I felt more confident when Maresca was in charge than I did with Rosenior. This is specifically on Garnacho, just to be clear. But then there's other players that have stepped up with Rosenior, who I'm also a fan of. I like the fact that Hato's getting more game time. I like the fact that Santos is being given a chance. I feel like Delap would have been given more game time from Maresca if it wasn't for the injury. So kind of hard to judge. But I also feel like he is more suited to the way Rosenior would want to play because you've got that bit of freedom, not too much structure. And we have a number of players in our team who, when they can thrive as individuals, we perform better as a team. Robert Sanchez is one. Liam Delap is another one. Cole Palmer is another one. Esteval. These are players that can win you games. These are players that can win you games on their own with their own moments. Differences in quality, fully appreciate that. But if you don't allow players to express themselves and they have to play within the confines of what they're allowed to do all the time, you are restricting them. And I think that I feel like we have a little bit more. Yeah, that's the right word, Steve. Fluidity, more fluidity. But then the counter argument to that is when I look at what Maresca's always done as a Chelsea manager and where I felt pretty confident is I knew his system was flawed against low blocks, but then when we played against every other top team apart from Man City, in all honesty, I mean, Man City, I never felt particularly confident, but when we played against Arsenal, Liverpool, pretty much all of the top sides, I was like, we can get a result here. Even United, to be fair, although we had a pretty bad record at Old Trafford. So that's something that I've lost confidence in, is that sort of automatic feeling of, I know how we're going to approach this game against a top team. And I know that our system is more likely to work against that team than it would be against a Burnley or something like that, which is what Nina said. And she was bang on, to be fair. And I think the argument now is, this is my prediction, if I had to make one, is we've got a lot of relegation sides coming up in February. I think we'll actually do quite well. I'm worried about March. That would be the month that I'm looking at and I'm going, if there is a period where we're going to drop points, I think that would be it. I mean, Wolves is a very winnable game. Leeds at home. I mean, I guess the argument is maybe you rotate some players. But I mean, we could rotate against Wolves and still get a result, surely, right? Or we go out strong and then we take players off. I'd like to see pretty much full strength in both of those games. Then you rotate against Hull on the 13th of February. You've only got a few days to prepare for that. And then you've got a nice long break before you play Burnley. And even at that point, we've got Arsenal on the 1st of March. There's a long break there as well. So I'm pretty confident about the month of February as a whole. And I feel like the individuality that we're going to allow certain players to have, I pray that we give players the freedom to just go and win a game, like we did under Poch to an extent, but with a little bit more structure. Just let Palmer have the freedom. Let Esteval go and make something happen that doesn't necessarily fit in with what you were doing on the whiteboard. And that's what I think will carry us through those games. And that's what we were missing under Maresca. The counter argument is we then play against the top side and we have less structure. We don't retain the ball as much. We concede possession at times. And then we get punished for some of our mistakes. And that's where Rosenior could cause some issues. So that's a potential argument, but we don't know. We don't know. We've been divided since these bozos sacked Audi TT. Big up to you, Brian. Always a pleasure, mate. It's, yeah, the division absolutely started there. I mean, I'd love to know how you guys feel about Rosenior as well. Sorry, I haven't really gone through too many comments. I'll do that more now. But I just thought I'd speak about everything that's happening, and try and break it down as best as I can. I feel like I got most of what I wanted to say across. I wasn't happy with the result. I also wasn't angry with the manager for the way we lost. It was more so like I had a conversation yesterday with someone and we were just talking about it, and it was like, yeah, we lost, and it is unfortunately that I don't want to say acceptance, but it's like there's only so many times I can shout here on a stream, guys. There's only so many times I can do it, and I'm against the ownership. I don't like Blueco. I don't particularly appreciate the transfer policy, although I think it has its benefits. And I just want to break it down as best as I can. And there comes a point where you just say, you got this team and you got that team. They're just better. They got more stability. They got more experience. They've got more quality. Why do I need to break it down all the details when those three things are already against us? That's the harsh reality, mate. But, even Thomas Tuchel would struggle with this side. Thomas Tuchel would not have an easy time. Not have an easy time managing these players. Tuchel used to rotate, but Tuchel used to rotate because he knew the other players that were coming in were of a certain quality. And they were able to perform to a similar level, if not a better level, than the player who played the week before. One week you played Pulisic, the next week you play Ziyech, then you got Callum Hudson-Odoi coming on. Yeah, that we had good options. You're not happy with Havertz, you play Werner. You're not happy with Kovacic, you play Jorginho. You're not happy with him, you play. You got Kante in the midfield. You got Silva. Different kettle of fish, guys. Different kettle of fish. Big up to you anyway, Brian. Hope you're well. Where does this confidence come from? Well, I mean, if you're not confident that we can beat Wolves, Leeds, Hull and Burnley, I'm not really sure if you'd be confident about anything. That's my confidence. I'm not sitting here saying I'm confident that we're going to beat Arsenal, Villa and Newcastle. I'm sitting here saying I think that's where I'm going to judge Liam more. So after that Newcastle-Everton game, towards the end of March, I will have much more of an opinion on what I'm saying. But I've never had the opportunity to watch Rosenior's teams on a regular basis. I watched one match for Strasbourg when they played against Crystal Palace. Actually played really well. Could have quite easily lost that game as well. They did concede some bad chances. But yeah, that's it. That's it. We've got points to play for in February. Nine points at least is the minimum expectation against Wolves, Leeds, and Burnley. And then you've got a further 12 points to play for in March. I think the 9 is a given based on the fact that we should have like some standards. Nobody's sitting here saying win the league. But what I am saying is you should be beating relegation teams at the bottom half of the table. I will judge more of what we're doing in March when we then play against better sides. To be honest, Liam is a nice guy. Is he the right guy for us? To be honest, the last best manager for us was Conte, Jose and Carlo. All the others, we have been able to cover the cracks with cup wins. I think part of that is down to just the way that Chelsea was run. I think there was always that fear factor. And when you're able to operate under extreme pressure in times, I mean, cups offer you that, and leagues, you get those periods of complacency, especially in December. We've always suffered from that. But not to mention that, yeah, I mean, your point is a fair one. Tuchel could have definitely competed for a league title if we would have had a little bit more stability in terms of just being able to confidently say that this guy's going to be with us for a number of years. I think that has an effect, to be honest with you. Especially when it comes to winning leagues consistently. Guardiola's a great example. Klopp's there. And Arteta's getting there. I mean, look how long it's taken them to build up. And Chelsea have never really had that. Part of me is like, I'd be open to seeing a project with a manager, but I just didn't think that would have been Rosenior. I didn't think that would have been the case. People are hyping up this team to the fullest. I think you've got both sides, to be honest, mate. I think you've got people that are hyping it. You've also got a lot of people that are bringing it down. This manager isn't the right guy for us. Hard to tell at this point, but I would have definitely agreed with you when he was brought in. I thought it was a disgraceful decision. I feel like we're unlucky with that our attacking options were injured or not playing. Garnacho not good enough. Esteval less experienced. He needed help. Palmer comes from injury. Also, another thing I will say, like, I don't actually know if I addressed Palmer and Esteval. Esteval being on the bench was a moral decision, not a tactical decision. It was moral. It was nothing to do with his fitness. This is my opinion. It was moral. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is the guy's having some problems with his family. He's been in Brazil. Maybe his grandparents or his parents. Someone might have died or they're dying. Who knows? That's not a player that's necessarily in the right mindset to start a game. And there'll be fans that come out and go, well, you get paid millions of pounds. Guy's 18 years old. 18 years old. He's a kid. He's probably struggling. Now, I'm not sitting here saying hold his hand, but I totally get it. I totally get it. From the player's perspective, ease him in a little bit. From Palmer's perspective, different argument. We're not talking about the mentality. Palmer's obviously capable of starting the game. That's fitness. And I'm telling you right now, you would complain more if we took Palmer off at 0-0 than when we bring him on. You would have complained more. 100%. Do we not remember when, was that against Villa at home? I think it was. When Palmer got subbed. Everyone's booing. You don't know what you're doing to the manager. The manager didn't make the decision. But he did make the decision because he could have done something different. What Maresca could have done is what Rosenior did. Could have benched Palmer and then brought him off and we would have finished the game potentially stronger. But we wouldn't have had as much quality at the beginning. So Rosenior's looking the other way. I don't mind it. I'd rather finish strong. I say this about league campaigns as well. Would you rather have a strong start and a weak finish or a weak start and a strong finish? What does the latter tell you? The latter tells you that you're at least getting better, you're improving. That doesn't mean to say that you were good in the first place and we should justify that. But I wanted us to finish strong. What if it went to penalties and Palmer's been taken off? Yeah, these are all factors that you have to think about. So I had no issue with it. I mean, I wasn't happy that Palmer wasn't starting. Obviously, I was like, fuck's sake. Of course. Let's not act like I was celebrating Palmer on the bench and the lap on the right wing. I was a bit concerned when I saw the lineup. I was looking at it and I thought, not really sure what to think at the moment. But I knew, as all of you knew, that when it came time in that second half, he was going to come on and Steve was going to come on. And that's exactly what happened. They didn't come off after 45 minutes. They came on after 57, I think it was. Still early. Plenty of time to make an impact. And we didn't dent Arsenal. We didn't dent them. So even making the right decisions as we did with those substitutes to try and be more positive, it didn't work. Which tells me there was a chance that if we would have if we did go gung-ho at the beginning, we would have been in even more trouble. It's a lose-lose for the manager, ultimately. His hands are tied. His hands are tied. He's in a situation where he's not allowed to play a player for a certain amount of time. And this is Palmer more specifically. Maybe Esteval could have played again. I think that's moral. I think that's mental. I don't think that's physical. Although maybe he'd been on a long flight. I don't know. Who knows? So you're telling me that Palmer's only allowed to play for at least, let's just say at least 45 minutes. Would you rather it was the first 45 or the second 45? I picked the second 45. That's the truth. Because then if we go in at 0-0, we've got nothing when he comes off. So that's why I'm defending that decision. I don't have a problem with it, to be honest with you. I have a problem with the fact that the medical team seem to have every single head coach on a leash, as if they're some sort of dog. You only bark when I say you can. When I say sit, you sit. When I say roll over, you better do it. Otherwise, you're not going to get your treats. That's kind of what's going on. And this is not a conversation that we're really having about any clubs. I said it yesterday. If anyone watched the day after show, it's a strange debate when you're talking about why a manager dropped a player, and then you kind of go back to the reality of he didn't drop the player. It wasn't his decision. Or if he was going to start the player would have come off at halftime. It's a lose-lose. That's the God honest truth. And that's not a Rosenior thing. That's a Chelsea head coach thing, because every head coach has to fit into the same set of rules. Otherwise, you're gone. The politics of this club ultimately wins. What happens if they sack Rosenior and sign Gary O'Neill? I mean, the argument is that Gary O'Neill is more qualified than Rosenior, but Gary O'Neill's a smart man for getting that Strasbourg job. That's a very smart move from him. What happens if they sack him? Well, let's hope that never happens. Yeah, we all want to see how we perform against the top teams. March is the month to see how we can do against respectable sides. When's the next protest? I haven't heard anything about it. If I'm honest with you, the last protest was an embarrassment. It was an embarrassment. I supported that protest. I went to that protest. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I mean, they came out and acknowledged afterwards that the protest was poor and they learned a lot of things from it. By that point, it's too late. If there is going to be a protest, it needs to be a clear message. These players are to blame as well. He picks the team, or someone does, and the players seem to forget how to play. I'm sorry, it's down to the players to get the wins. Yes and no. You are right, but also I'm not going to blame Delap as much when he has a bad game on the right wing as I am when he plays as a striker, because it's not his natural position. I'm also not going to get as angry at a player like Chalobah having a bad game if he's got idiots next to him. Yesterday, against Arsenal, we obviously had Fofana. That wasn't a big problem. So there's an element of individualism that you want, but there has to be a structure as well, and you can see how structure benefits certain players and vice versa. I think that there are players that definitely thrive off of having a structure, for sure. There's definitely players that fit into that. I think Santos is a great balance. I think Fernandes is a great balance. I think Caicedo actually hasn't looked as great in the past few games. I want to see him a little bit further up the pitch, because when we look at the chances that Enzo Fernandez had, and he's shooting outside the box, Caicedo in the same position, I actually think challenges the keeper or has a genuinely good shot. Like, we can't deny Caicedo is one of the best shooters in this team. And yet we all associate him as a defensive player, but his ability to shoot is better than Enzo Fernandez. It's better than Andre Santos for sure. I think he's got a better shot than what I've seen from Liam Delap. I mean, who else? Better than Garnacho. Palmer doesn't shoot from distance. Very rarely does he do that. So you've got to utilize that strength. You've got to utilize that. And yeah, that's something that I would have liked to have seen. But again, maybe that's us being conservative. Maybe that's another argument as to why we should have gone for the game more. Big up to Kamano Kagasi. Liam deserves the same pressure as any Chelsea manager, especially knowing the current Chelsea model. Fair point. Very fair, mate. Very fair. And I don't think the pressure should be any different. I'm with you on that. In defense, because I'm trying to look at this from both sides. Guys, don't spam in the chat either, otherwise you're going to get... We'll stop you from commenting. If we're looking at it from a pure progression standpoint, which people still say isn't good enough, fair argument as well, where were we in the Carabao Cup last season? Knocked out against Newcastle in like the quarters or the last 16, like pathetic. Where were we in the FA Cup? Knocked out against Brighton, early doors. Pathetic. And Carabao Cup, we've improved. Still not good enough, but we've improved. FA Cup, that's a story that I am invested in. I would love nothing more than to win an FA Cup and just give me something at Wembley. Give us some hope, some progression. This is also to attract players as well. If we can attract some players to this team, then trophies is one way of doing it. Also, we don't respect the Conference League and the Club World Cup enough. People really demonize those competitions. I was listening to Lee Gunner yesterday, who's an Arsenal fan, talking about the importance of every cup. Totally agree with that. Totally agree. At the time when you're in the Conference League, you go, yeah, we're playing this team. If anyone was in Poland or was listening to the atmosphere, or, yeah, especially if you were there in Wrocław, I'm telling you, that type of atmosphere was no different to what you would have had in a Europa League final and a Champions League final. Everyone's desperate to win. Everyone cares. But it's the size of the competition that is clearly different. I'm not disputing that. So an FA Cup would do wonders for this team. If we get through this season with an FA Cup and we finish higher in the league, we've already improved in the Carabao Cup. We don't have a Club World Cup to compare. I'm telling you right now, it is an improvement on last season. That does not mean that I agree with the sacking of Maresca. That does not mean that I'm happy that Liam Rosenior is Chelsea's manager. That doesn't mean that I believe we're going to do it. But what it does mean is I think we've improved at the time. So if we tick those two boxes, I already said the bare minimum in Champions League was to get through to the knockout stages, which we've automatically done. So those are the three boxes that I said at the beginning of the season. If we achieve those things, I'm compelled to make an argument that Chelsea have improved. I'm compelled to make that argument. And I'll debate that. Doesn't mean I'm happy with our league form and that we're not competing at the highest level. Doesn't mean that I enjoy the wage structure. But the facts are the facts. And my thing is all about progression. I don't care if it's 5 points. I don't care if it's 10. I don't care if it's an extra round in the cup. If it's a progression, it's a progression. Whether you're happy with that is another conversation. And that's where I'm at, guys. So we'll see what happens. Right, I've got time for one more question. Then I've got to jump on a stream with Don. I've been invited on Don's channel. Esteval has great body shape when striking shots. He's going to bang some in, whip and speedy shots. He'll score goals from everywhere. If he's given the opportunity to shoot, for sure. I mean, his shot against Palace was very, very good. I was really impressed with Esteval. The Club World Cup won't get his flowers until a few more happens. It's still new. The Conference League shouldn't be a level. That's very fair. I always thought that the Club World Cup, though, if I'm honest, was actually... I think it's a real improvement on what it was. I don't think we have improved. Liam is a carbon copy of Maresca. I'm not saying we've improved now. I'm just saying at the end of the season, if we win the FA Cup and improve our league position, that is an improvement based on what we're able to do. But I don't think he's a carbon copy of Maresca, but he's certainly building off of what Maresca was doing. But listen, guys, really appreciate everyone that's jumped on. Appreciate your time. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, check out OK Jersey. Use the code CFTV. There's a link down below. It's a QR code. And I will see you very soon. If you want to watch a little bit more, guys, I'm going to be on Don's stream. All the best, guys. And we'll catch up very